I maintain that for at least 7 or 8 years after its invention, the microprocessor was used for embedded controller applications. I know that very well because from 73 to 76, I was the applications engineering guy for National Semi, and that's all we dealt with. But then sometime around 77, 78 came this guy, Steve Jobs, and is that Wozniak next to him? Mm-hmm. That's Steve Wozniak. So how have you documented the early history of personal computers, and how does that relate to the microcomputer project that I saw just the other day on the Stanford Archives website?
Well, if you talk about the history of microcomputing, that's probably one of the core strengths of the collections. And that,
tell us about it.
Well, it ranges from the documentation of the People's Computer Company, the beginnings of this sort of access to computers that was being encouraged through programming languages like BASIC and so forth. So I have collections relating to PCC and newsletters of user groups, Homebrew. We have over 30 collections related to Apple Computer alone, just that one company. Many other companies that were around at the time. Of course, Apple, there's a tendency now, and this is natural, to begin your thoughts about history by reading backwards, right? So of course Apple and the PC, but there were a lot of other things going on in personal computers, CP/M and S100 bus and all these other things, and there were a lot of companies that were...
Do you have Gary Kildall's papers from CP/M?
Sorry?
Gary Kildall's papers from CP/M?
Gary, well, if you promise not to tell anyone, I'll tell you we have a few things from him that we're not yet able to release that have to do with the family's wishes about his stuff. Yeah. But we have quite a bit of material relating to CP/M and user groups around CP/M. We have some stuff from companies that even here probably a lot of you don't remember very much about, like Morrow, which was a big 8-bit CP/M company in the early 1980s. We have material relating to that company. George Morrow was a really interesting guy and did a lot of interesting things.
I ran into him when I was the ops engineer at National Semiconductor. He was incredibly eccentric.
Yeah. He had that famous ad where he had where he opened his coat like somebody who was...
He told me that if I don't get satisfaction,
to
this is a personal story from, I don't know, 73, 74, 75. If I don't get satisfaction from you, I'm going to take my business to Bob Noyce because I know him very well. He's my pal.
So there's quite a bit there. We have, covered both the technical side of it, the business side of it, and also the user side of early microcomputing. We have probably, I like to make claims like this, and then if somebody knows otherwise, then feel free to correct me. I'm pretty sure we have the largest collection of user group newsletters in the world. We have a number of collections relating to that, but we also picked up something probably about 20 years ago called the Apple Pie Collection, which was, Apple Pie was basically an organization that collected all of the Apple-related user group newsletters, Apple II, Mac, all those different things, and created a pretty large library of material that when they went under, we were given that entire library of material related to user groups. So, it's a lot of it is what topic are you interested in? What niche are you going to put yourself into? What kinds of documentation are you most interested in? If you're interested, you might be interested in just the user experiences, how people started using computers. Well, we'd be a great place to come to for that. But there might also be some other topic that the Charles Babbage Institute or the Computer History Museum might have much more documentation about that's
right,
related
but
to some other
that's
aspect.
Beyond your scope because you're focused on Silicon Valley, as opposed to the from the beginning of time history of computing.
To some extent, yes, right. I'm also interested in the history of computing.
Well, I'm saying your project versus the other projects in the library.
Right.
Well.